to find out if it is live. Looks like it's live. Yay! All right. It's not showing me though.
You're live.
Oh, I was looking at an old one. All right. Well, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad that you are here with us at Kentucky Go Digital Live. My name is Elaine Abernatha. I'm a digital innovation leader in JCPS, and today I'm going to get to lead this show. I'm very excited to be joined by our awesome Kentucky Go Digital Live team. We have Heather Worrell, and she's the Executive Administrator of Digital Innovation here in JCPS. We have also Angie White, who is the Director of Instructional Technology in Oldham County. We have Dana Dowdy, who is a digital learning coach in Graves County. And we also have Courtney DeRossett, who is for a field staff at KDE. Glad you're here. And as well as Brandy New, and I've lost your title, Brandy, but I know you're a digital coach there as well. So welcome, team. So glad to have you. And I want to make sure we shout out to all the Kentucky Go Digital leaders who are joining us on YouTube Live as well. Make sure that you drop in those questions on the YouTube Live chat, and more than one of us will be in there as well to help you and also feed you those answers live if need be. Let us know what county or state you're from. And if you don't have that chat capability, make sure that you are logged into YouTube. And while you're there, go ahead and click that subscribe button, because you are able to easily find that live stream, as well as be notified for updated streams or shows that we upload. So it's time to hear from our amazing Pikeville independent leader, Neil Arnett. He is a digital technology coach, and I'm excited to have you on the show. Good morning, Neil. Good afternoon.
Good morning. I'm excited. Oh, yeah, good afternoon. Exactly. Excited to be here with y'all today.
We are too. So Neil is going to be talking to us today about digitalizing your registration, and I'm excited to find out how you are doing this.
All right. So I'm really excited to be here again. Thank you all again for having me. I've been a huge KY Go Digital Live fan, probably since back when there were 20 or 30 subscribers. And so you all have done amazing work across the state, and we really appreciate all the sharing that has been done on here over the years. So like she said, at Pikeville Independent, I am a co-district technology coordinator, and I work primarily, because we're a small district, I work primarily with our elementary school. And so my office is actually in the elementary school, so I have a very close working relationship with our elementary guidance counselor and our elementary administration. And so that's kind of what spurred this on. Normally in April, we do our kindergarten registration. And so with all of the changes that are happening right now with the stay at home and everyone staying healthy at home, we decided we needed to come up with a new way to do our registration. And so in the past, we've done a PDF form on our website. So folks were kind of used to going to our website to get started on their registration. And it was a PDF they could fill out and send in. But that was a little more cumbersome, especially for a lot of parents. Not everyone utilized that. Some people were still filling them out by hand and bringing them in. And of course, we couldn't do that now. So what we did, and I'm going to share my screen really quickly here. What we did is we took our information sheet. And so this is what it would look like. This is a test one that I did. This is not a real student's demographic sheet, but we did a test sheet. It's a 2-pager information form that we're collecting right now. This is what we always collect during our initial student registration days. Of course, our enrollment packet is a little bit longer than this. There's some more information that we get in our full enrollment packet when school actually starts. But for new student registration, we get basically a 2-page demographic information about those students, where we find out all the things you would need to create a household in Infinite Campus, and to get your student enrolled and started in school. And so what we did is we had this form. This is the form we've used for a couple of years, and luckily it was already a Google Doc. So it being a Google Doc, we decided to take that, working with Miss Lara, our school counselor, we decided to take this form that she had created in Google Docs and integrate that with a Google form, and then using Autocrat to fill the information in on that form, so that we still get that PDF copy that can go in a student's cumulative folder, and so the parents still get their copy. And so this is what the form actually looks like in Google Docs, and we'll talk a little bit in a minute about what all of these things are. And so when you have your form, that's the very first thing you're going to want to make sure you have is a Google document version of your enrollment form. And so we have a Google Doc version of the larger one we're going to get when school starts. And so this is a Google Doc version of that 2-pager demographic information that we're getting from our students. And so the first thing we did is we took all of these questions that we need to know, and we put them into a Google form. And so our Google form looks like this. This is a copy of that Google form. So when parents come in, they'll see this first screen that kind of gives information about the documents that are going to be required. Of course, right now, we know a lot of people can't go get physicals. They may not be able to get that eye screening. They may not be able to get the dental screening that's required. But we put all that stuff on there, letting them know that we will collect that at a later date as some of the healthy at home restrictions are loosened. And so then we just start asking the questions that are the same questions over on that sheet. And so we ask things like, how's your student getting to and from school, all the way down through their demographic information, their name, age, all of the things you need to create a household, to create a student and enrollment in Infinite Campus. We ask all of those questions. And we also always include on our enrollment forms questions such as home, internet access, their digital access at home. Do they have a device that's capable of doing assignments online? Do they have an internet connection capable of watching a YouTube video? So we ask those kinds of questions. And so as you can see on our form, we've already had 76 new students register this year.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I know right now in the situation, that we are in with trying to figure out, I know we've always asked, and we've always, in different ways, who has access at home. But right now, more than ever, what you are pointing out in this registration form is so important, so that everyone knows, not just, do you have a cell phone, but what type of access do you have at home? And schools then can meet the needs of if they have digital access and who doesn't, and how to decipher that. So I really wanted to point that out because I know it definitely helps you, and I know it's something that you've always done. But as a region, when Neil shares this with our CIOs and for our schools, it helps them really hone in on it, because it's so hard to get more surveys back. If you can do it at this beginning in this enrollment form, it's a great time to kind of get a feel of what kids have access and who doesn't, and what type of access they have.
And not to mention, just to go back, how many times do you have to put out the same information at the beginning of every single one of those forms? And you're not having to do that anymore, which is huge, because you get kind of frustrated with your birth date, the address, and the name. So this eliminates all of that, which is awesome.
Yeah, especially when they go to fill out the larger enrollment form. A lot of those pages, and our enrollment form is really about 7 pages long when they do the full one when school starts. And so we have the same setup for that form that will go out, end of July, 1st of August. They'll get the bigger enrollment form with all of the information. And so, there's every page has student's name at the top, has student birthday at the top, and then one of those pages may go to the nurse, one of those pages may go to the home language coordinator, the ESL, one of them may go to the person who collects the agricultural survey that's part of the enrollment packet. And so, like we were talking about, this is one of the great things about now having this information in Google Form is we automatically have some of these charts and graphs that are easily shareable. We can pull this information like for the digital readiness survey, and we can pull it for other other important things that we may need. So like this is a graph that's already showing me of these incoming students next year, which ones are going to have internet access at home in August, what percentage are going to have a device that could do online assignments at home. And in this uncertain time, we don't know what August is going to look like. We don't know what the fall is going to look like. So it's going to be really important to be collecting this information early. And so, like Courtney said, we've always done it as part of our enrollment packet. It's a great way to get that information rather than trying to do another survey and not sure if you're going to get responses back, because I know our guidance counselor is going to be tracking down these forms. So I know I'm going to be getting information, and having that on there is really great. One of the other things I wanted to point out is that I made a copy of this enrollment form. And so for our preschool students, it is a separate form, and it has 3 additional questions on it. So it asks all of the same things. I could make a copy of that Google form, and then I added 3 additional questions because our preschool director has to have, in order to determine eligibility, they are required by their program to collect proof of income, Medicaid, if that's applicable, as well as some sort of documentation if there's any kind of existing diagnosis or something for an IEP or 504. And so they're required to collect those things. So we were even able to add the file upload option to this, and that's the way we're also going to collect some of those other documents once students can get those eye exams, can get those dental checks and that sort of thing. So we just put all the questions in here just like they look on the form. We build our options however we want that to be presented when they click on those, and whatever they click in these boxes or whatever they type in the text fields, those are the things that Autocrat is going to grab and put on our form. So I was going to pause for a second. Is there any questions about as far as the Google Doc or the Google form, that sort of thing, before I really want to spend a little bit of time on how we actually get Autocrat to do that and some of the other tools that we use?
I don't think we have any questions in the chat right now, but we do have Claudette, who is from Fayette County, and Keena Moore, who's from McLean County, and Sawyer Lindsay. So we're really glad that you guys are joining us live, and make sure that you put those questions in that you may have for us. Neil, you're talking my language. I love Autocrat, and I love when we can merge it together. And have you ever done it with Google Slides as well? Have you gotten to do that?
I haven't done it with Google Slides, no. And in fact, I was going to say Autocrat. I learned about Autocrat from Elaine and KY Go Digital. That is how I actually learned Autocrat. And I am by far not an Autocrat professional. I have just been in it for a little while, but I learned.
Well, the sky's the limit. The sky is definitely the limit. So if you dream it, it can be done. But I love that you've paired this with a necessity, especially these days, with the registration. So I'm not sure if you're going to say it in just a second, but one of the things that's key. Yeah.
I was going to just chime in. I think the very first episode that we ever did on Kentucky Go Digital Live was actually you and a principal in Brook Whitlow talking about Autocrat for principals. So
Brittany Nickel.
Yes, in Hardin County Schools. That was the very first episode. I think we have, 100 plus episodes now. But Neil, I also wanted to say it's really great to see you here. I haven't gotten to interact with you much, but I love following you on Twitter and seeing all the good work going on out there in Pikeville.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So, actually, that episode of KY Go Digital Live, I went back and watched while I was setting up this registration form. So that's again what I was meaning by how important the work that you all have done has really influenced what we've set up here. So let me get into that really quickly. I'm going to go through Autocrat and then another tool that I've also used for this process. So, like I said, once you have your Google document set up, and then you have your Google form set up. So literally I copied and pasted the questions off of that Google document onto my Google form. So that way it was exactly word for word the way it looked on the Google Doc version. I copied those onto the Google form. And so that way they looked exactly the same. So when you do, when you collect your responses, of course, you'll want to create that spreadsheet that this information feeds into. And so a spreadsheet looks like this. And so this is one, you can see some of these tests. This test information at the top, these are not real students. That is my son, but these are not real entries. It doesn't have any of our personal information on there. I've grayed out the other entries. But one of the things I wanted to show you that I've done too, and this is before we get into Autocrat, is I have also done conditional formatting on this sheet on any of the questions that there's something that we need to flag that, hey, someone needs to follow up on this, someone needs to look at this. And so not only is the PDF going out, but this Google Sheet is also shared with our front office staff who create enrollments in Infinite Campus, and it's also shared with our guidance counselor. So questions, for instance, has the student always been in your legal care? If someone answers no to that question, conditional formatting is automatically going to flag that cell red. So that way, hey, somebody needs to go look at this. Maybe it's nothing we need to follow up on. Maybe we do need, a court document. Maybe we need something on file there. So making sure we get those things, and it just draws people's attention to that. Do you share custody with an individual that doesn't live in your household? It's going to flag that orange if they answer yes to that question. And so all across this document, there's several things, even over to at the end of the document, if you have a student that your ESL coordinator is going to need to look at for any of those English as a second language testing, any of that kind of stuff because of the home language survey. Also, all the way down to the end of the form, there's questions that are for the nurse. So does your student have any significant or ongoing health conditions or something that the school nurse needs to know about? Those are going to flag red. So that way we can say, hey, somebody needs to make sure that the nurse gets all the paperwork that she needs on that kind of student. So that was using the conditional formatting in Google Sheets. I won't go into that in this episode, but it is very handy. And hopefully you have looked in format and conditional formatting in Google Sheets. It's a great tool in order to help with things like this. So one of the really important things is once you've created your questions in Google Forms and you've got your Google Sheet set up so that all that information is feeding into your Google Sheet, these column names at the top are your questions. So the question that is on the Google form, that's what it names the column up here at the top. And so again, those were the ones we copied and pasted on our Google document. So before you start Autocrat, the first things you're going to do is I come in this sheet here, and then I will copy that exact text that is up there, and I went back to my Google document. And you can see here I put in the merge tags, which are two of the little caret symbols, and then I paste the exact question and then close that with that bracket on the end. So we've got the opening and closing of that merge. And those are the things that Autocrat's going to look for. It's going to say, hey, this is the column I'm looking for, and then I'm going to put that information in here. So it makes your template document look a little crazy because basically I have my question here, and then I have tagged the same question inside of that. But when we get the output, you can see it actually replaced that with the answer that was answered on the Google form. And so it's important to have those tags put in place for all of your columns. And so for every column we have across that spreadsheet, there's a tag down through this document that you can see is going to put that information in there, even our home connectivity and technology survey, sibling information, the prior setting data that you're going to need to input for your new kindergartners. When you do your kindergarten screening, we always have to supply prior setting data. Anything that your special ed or 504 directors are going to need to see, medical information for the nurse. So all of that is getting filled in here based on those tags. So it kind of makes it a little cumbersome to make it fit and so that it prints a PDF correctly, because it pushes extra lines where obviously this line's not going to be that long. It's going to be a much shorter answer in there. But you just got to make sure you have this tag set up for every column across through there. So you'll notice that those questions that are my column headings are doing those tags.
And some of those things, Neil, that if you go back to your Google Doc right there, up at the very top, notice that you don't have to have the actual title of what's, because it's nickname is different than nickname / chosen name. So those don't have to necessarily match, but it's just those tags, like you said. And sometimes I run into where a tag is one of my questions is really named the same, and then I may put a description below the question, and that will make you run an error too. So that's one of the little things to look out for. But this looks great. It's definitely a time saver for sure.
Yeah. One of the things too is, like, for instance, down here on guardian information. So the way we collect, the two guardians or the two parents. So you'll notice on each of those questions I ask over on the Google form, I'm asking guardian 1, and then I'm asking guardian 2. So that way I could distinguish between guardian first name 1, guardian first name 2. So you can see I've tagged both of those. And so then to set up Autocrat, once you've got your Google Doc, you've got your form with all your questions on it, you've got your sheet that it's ready to feed into, you put those column tags over on your Google document, so that way it knows where to place the answers. You can see obviously those answers are going to be much shorter, but it's going to place those in there. So once you have those tags on the Google Doc, then it's time to actually jump into Autocrat. And if you've got all those things set up, Autocrat is incredibly simple to do from that point once you have those tags on your doc. So when I open Autocrat here, I'll just walk through the settings really quickly. It's super simple, but how we actually have the workflow set up. So when this information comes in, what actually goes through. So you can see this is the job that exists for this Google form. And so if I just edit that job, I've given it the name. So this first thing is where I pick that template. So it's actually going to pull in that student information template that I have in my Google Drive. And so once I do that, and then I hit next, you'll notice that it automatically finds those tags that I have put through the document. And because they're named the same thing, it already knew which column of my spreadsheet to choose. And so it went ahead and did all that work for me. I did not have to match up those merged cells. It automatically did all that work. I mean, literally the Autocrat setup took maybe 15 minutes, and that was just playing with settings for how I wanted it to actually look when it output. But it went through, and so it tagged every single one of those columns you can see down through there. It's a lot of columns. And so then I did next. And so I decided to use those tags also in the file name, because what's going to happen is when this Autocrat merges it onto the Google Doc, it's going to create a PDF. And so I've told it, send that out as a PDF, but then name that PDF. So I put in here 2020 PES student information. I put right at the beginning what grade that student is selected for. Give me the student's first name and last name. So again, using those tags, just like I did over on the doc, I can name my file as well. And so I went all the way across and I said, put this information in the file name. So that way that folder that the PDFs are dropping into, the counselor or the clerk who puts this information in can go and look for those files. If they need one of those, they can find really easily a particular student's file. And so I'll put all of that information right there in the tags. I'm doing the multiple output mode, which is the classic mode. I left that selected. And then I tell it where I want those. So I had already created a folder that says PES completed enrollments forms. So in that folder, that's where all these PDFs are going to drop. And then I can just share that Google folder, like I said, with the counselor, the principal, the clerk who puts this information in, that whoever needs access to that, I can control with those share settings over in Drive, and they can access that folder. Then I have not done these settings on this particular setup yet, and I went on over to the share and email settings, which is the screen number 8 in Autocrat. I skipped through those other ones. I haven't set those up for this particular instance. So yes, we are sharing the doc. I want it to share as a PDF, and then I will actually do. Then I will actually, sorry about that. I will, I have it sharing out, and then I have, it's sending from a generic no reply email address. But then I come down here in my email settings, and again with those tags, I'm saying get guardian email number 1. So the guardian number 1 is the person who's filling out the form. Pull their email from the sheet, CC a copy of it to the school counselor, and then I've had it be CCing a copy to me while we make sure everything's working. And so I'm getting a copy of it as well, and then the counselor getting a copy, and then the parent gets a copy of their PDF. And then even in the body and the subject of the email, we're putting in, so student information form for that student's name. We have a little message here that thanks them for filling out the registration for that particular student, going into that particular grade. It's pulling that in. If you need any additional information, we'll collect those additional forms when doctor's offices and dentist office open back up. And then the other thing we have down here is because we're enrolling a lot of kindergartners, we are also automating the appointment slots for our kindergarten screener. That is going to be happening in August, because normally when they come in and they bring that registration form to the counselor, she's scheduling those screening appointments. So now we've automated that as well. And so I put links to those Google Forms in here, and we'll talk about those Google Forms in just a minute as well. And so basically you save that, and then it asks you to enable the triggers. As soon as someone hits submit, a couple seconds later, boom, we get an email that has the PDFs for those documents. Those PDFs are in that email for the counselor. Gets a copy. The parent gets a copy. We went live on the Tuesday after spring break 2 weeks ago. We had announced on our social media channels that we would put the links live on our website at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. By 12 on that Tuesday, we had registered 40 kindergartners. And I think we had probably 10 in the first 20 minutes. And so it was very quick, very easy. The great thing about it is parents they can access this and fill it out on their mobile device. They don't have to have a computer. They don't have to have Adobe to fill out that PDF. They can, scan a QR code. They can click a link on our social media pages. They can click a link from our website. Someone can text them a link, email them a link, and then right there on their mobile device or their computer or their iPad, they can fill this document out, and we get their enrollment form really quickly. And then they can schedule their kindergarten screening appointment as well, which I used a tool called Choice Eliminator on that one. That I was going to show you all here in just a second. Does anybody have any questions or anything I need to take a breath there for?
We did
Yes,
have
we
a,
do. We have a,
yeah, go ahead, Brandy.
yeah, we have a question from the chat. And it looks like from LaTanya. And she was wondering does this update to Infinite Campus? Or do you have another process for that?
So that's something that we're looking into next. Again, this has been brand new for us. It's not going to automatically update in there. We are looking at with Infinite Campus being able to do the import tool, where you can import information into Infinite Campus from like a CSV file We don't currently have that turned on in our Infinite Campus instance. I've seen districts that have that turned on, and so that's a possibility. Right now, we're still planning at the moment for our traditional input procedures, which is, this form goes to the data entry clerk and our office manager, who is the one that sets those households up and verifies this information as she puts it in. But that is an option that we want to look at down the road, is being able to do an import straight into Infinite Campus with a CSV file.
Neil, how large is your district? How many students do you all serve?
The district has about 1,200 students, so it usually floats somewhere between 1,150 and 1,200 students. So we're a fairly small city district. We have 2 schools. The elementary school, we've got right around 600 to 700 students in our elementary school. We typically have about between 80 and 90 new kindergartners each year. And of course, we, being an independent district, we have a lot of students not just in kindergarten that register during this process as well, because we usually have students from about 6 other school districts and 2 neighboring states that enroll in our school district as well. So we have the ability to get information from any of those students that are traveling into our district as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know we have lots of independent school districts here in Kentucky, and I was just trying to think like how this could be more granular down to a school level and how it could be inputted in, through the front office. I don't know. I'm trying to just kind of think about how this could work in a larger district. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
Well, I know that when I worked in McCracken, it was a big push to make sure that you got all kids identified that would need, especially your students that would need Head Start, early identification. And I think just using this tool will make it easier for parents to get that information to you. And a lot of them struggle, even getting to the office to get the documents as well. And this makes it all super easy. But as a larger district, being able to use this, I think the workflow is smoother. And then you think the time and the manpower of getting all of this stuff collected and not lost and those kind of things, it just would make it all much smoother.
One of the things that I've talked to a couple other school districts that are looking at using this similar setup. One of the things for larger school districts that we've discussed is, whether or not they have a standardized enrollment procedure across their multiple schools. So I know, for instance, I talked to one of our neighboring school districts that has, I believe, 8 or 10 elementary schools. And so if those school counselors each have a different process, maybe it's a good way to get all those people to the table and say, okay, what kind of information do we need, and maybe agree on a form. This particular form was one that met the needs of our guidance counselor. She had borrowed things that were on different enrollment forms from school districts, both in and out of the state, and kind of created her own Google Doc that met all the information needs that she had. But it's definitely something that, in a larger district, looking at standardizing that information collection across those schools, probably. Yeah. Courtney, did you have anything there? You look like you were poised to ask a question.
No, when they asked about Infinite Campus, I was curious if that was free, the Infinite Campus setup. And
not sure.
I think I heard that it costs money for that. And I understand if scaling it, what Heather was talking about, it just depends on the scale and the need. And if you want to earlier, like what Elaine was talking about with your preschool, how valuable that would be to know who's coming in. I really like how you do the appointments with the choice eliminator. I'd seen on the chat how Heather had commented that that's one of her favorites. It's really neat when teachers get comfortable, and what's really great about this and this opportunity, if we're trying to make lemonades out of lemons, as leaders model these tools and you're using choice eliminator for appointments for parents, hopefully over time that trickles down to the teacher, and then the teacher uses that tool in their own classroom when they're making appointments for parent nights, and there's not this long line, outside a room. So it's something that can trickle down, top down, which is what we all want to see.
Right. Yeah. So on the choice eliminator, so then when we do our kindergarten screening, one of the things we looked at is, of course, you can do appointment slots in Google Calendar. And so that was one of our first initial thoughts was, well, we'll just make appointment slots in Google Calendar. The problem is when you're doing a kindergarten screener, for instance, we usually have 7 appointments per 45-minute block. So you'll have 7 different screeners set up in the school of our size. We usually have about 7 to 8 screeners set up on a 2-day period. And so in that 45-minute block, each of those 7 screeners need to have the ability to have appointments without parents going to 14 different appointment calendars, for instance, if you were doing a Google Calendar. So what we did, and I'll show you my screen here again. What we did for this is, so then we created another form, and so I just put the link to this form. It's actually on the after you hit the submit button on Google Forms, the response page that comes up and says thank you for your submission, and it has these links that says if you are registering a kindergartner, please make sure that you schedule your kindergarten appointment for either Wednesday or Thursday, August 5th or 6th. And so I put a separate form for each of those days, and then just simply ask the student's name. And then I created these questions for each of those 45-minute time slots. So like Wednesday, August 5th, for instance, 9 a.m. to 9:45, and then have 7 choices here. And so then what we did is we used the add-on Choice Eliminator, and I'm actually using Choice Eliminator Lite. For this one, there's a Choice Eliminator 2 as well. For this, I'm using Choice Eliminator Lite. And so then it looks at these questions and it will pull those questions in. And so then I say, yes, on this Wednesday question, eliminate those choices. So as soon as someone picks appointment slot number 1 at 9:45 on August 5th and hits submit, that will go away for the next person who's looking at this link. And so those continue to go away. And in fact, within the first 3 hours of that registration, our Wednesday slots had all filled up except for maybe 2 appointments later in the day. And so we could also see that. And so then those are feeding over into a spreadsheet that looks like this. And so we can then go in and sort. We can say, okay, at 9:45, whoever the screener is in appointment number 1, if that's the counselor or the principal or one of the kindergarten teachers who's doing screenings that day, we can just sort this list by that time slot and say, here's the student you're going to have at 9:45 on August 5th. And so we've got all that in a spreadsheet. And plus, since we've now got the parents' contact information in that Google Sheet from their registration form, we're working on now. I'm going to do another Autocrat that will send out an email confirmation of their time slot for their kindergarten registration, and just reminding them when that is, closer to the date. So you can send out reminders about their appointment time closer to any preparations they need for that. You can send that out. And so we've got all of that information electronically. So really quickly we can send those out to everybody. So the 2 big tools that really saved the day on kindergarten registration this year, added on to forms, was the Choice Eliminator and Autocrat for sure, for the big win on doing these. So, that's basically the rundown of how we've already registered 76 new kindergarten through 6th grade students. So we had a couple in there that are not kindergartners, and we've got I think about 17 preschoolers already registered on that. So that's almost a full preschool class. So if there's any other questions or anything, I'll be happy to take those.
Neil, on the chat, we did have a question from someone asking, what if parents have to change the time? How are you all handling that?
On that, then they get that email address for our school counselor on there. And so they would just email her, and then she has access to that Google sheet that I just showed with those appointment times. And so she can go in, change those appointment times. And then, just knowing that's a living, breathing document until August 5th gets here. It's been, it works really well for that.
Thanks, Neil.
Yep. The last thing I was going to say, if there's no other questions before, or you all have any questions, is I am completely willing to share this setup. And so I was even going to say, if anybody watching, if they want to send me a tweet, that's a QR code that'll open Twitter. If you want to send me a tweet asking for this, I will get your district email, and I have a folder put together that has template versions of all of this. So that way it already has the Google Doc with the tags in it. It's already got the Google form. All you have to do is make sure that Google form meets the needs of your counselors or your enrollment folks. And then you can set up Autocrat right off of that Google form and be ready to go with registration. So if you just want to send me a tweet, I will share that Google folder that I have that has all of these pieces in there for the kindergarten screener and everything. So I'll be happy to help anybody set it up.
Neil, you're truly a team player and a team in this team sport that we're all in. So like we like to share everything, and we're all in this together. So thank you so much. You've been awesome today.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah. So you're getting to be with us as we have some big news. Courtney, do you want to share with anybody some big news that we have?
Yes, I am so excited. Well, first up, the big news is our next show is going to be super, super awesome. I'm in Eastern Kentucky, even though Jefferson County has her now. Mimi Ratliff is going to be with us with Rebecca Reynolds and Robin Richardson. And on April 29th, so next week, if you can tune in, they are going to have a health and PE show, how to do NTI without ESPN, and a lot of great tips about something that we can't forget about is how to be active and to encourage our students to be active. And I know I need it as an adult, so I can't wait to tune in on April 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join us April 29th. They are great. They've already been leading this work in Jefferson, and so it's going to be really great to share what they are doing with the entire state. And then the next awesome announcement, and I'm really honored to do this and for us to all be here when Neil's presenting, because he's been a key leader on our regionals, as everyone on the panel and hopefully those of you who are watching. We are going, because of the current situation, we're going to leverage this digital environment, and we are excited to announce that the KY Go Digital Summer is going to be a 2-day event, one state, one stage together. And on July 20th and July 21st, mark your calendar, because we are still going to be rocking it all on one stage. And so all teachers, educators, administrators, counselors, everyone, this is a virtual PD that will hopefully meet your district needs. Get your free ticket, and we're going to be sending this out social media, but also get your free ticket by registering at the link bit.ly/KGB virtual 20. So we will be sending all of that good registration link out social media, so you can share it with your districts and your schools, so we can all be together. We can all celebrate this summer, all of these digital tools that we are supporting our kids with right now.
Well, thank you, Courtney, and I'm so excited. I know the rest of the team excited to have that special event and to keep us all together and learning, so that we're not feeling isolated. So thank you again, Neil, for all of your assistance today, and we really appreciate that, because it's such a valuable tool, and to make sure that we all can use that tool as well. So make sure that also that you tune into us on Facebook, and if you need some more support through that, and follow and contribute to that KY Go Digital hashtag. So thank you all. And until we see you again next week, we'll see you later.
Thanks, guys.